So there's this movie that came out like a decade ago called Avatar: The Last Airbender, based on a popular beloved TV series that's like the best TV show of all time or something. And they had $150 million to make it, and it was horrible. The movie failed for a lot of reasons, but I'm going to concentrate on this one. Because I love adaptations. Telling a great story through another media can make you explore different facets of a single narrative. For example, BBC's Dark Material TV series is not as good as the book, but it explores other facets of the story through the adult's perspective instead of the book's youth-focused approach, which makes it interesting and different, as opposed to the movie. But I'm not here to talk about this. So for this, they had $150 million and one of the greatest a really well-known director, and they failed. So naturally, I thought, why can't I do it? Here are the premises I started with. This show is perfect. See, it has perfect casting and cinematography and voice acting, and I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel here, I'm just one dude. So why not try to recut the original TV series into a 2 hours movie format? Screw the need for storyboards and writing and voice acting and talent. Plus, it has the added bonus of never being able to share my work with anyone, because it would be blatant copyright infringement and I'd get demonetized for life on my first video ever. Instead, here's a video telling you what I did. When you're adapting a TV series into a movie, you do need to cut things. But then the first season is full of fillers, so it's fine. No one likes The Great Divide anyway. I mean, I really like the episode, but I understand if you don't. You keep the boy in the iceberg thing and the North Pole thing, and if you skip anything between the poles, it's fine. The book is called Water, so there's no need for spending time on Earth. Here's a list of things to cut. Okay, let me explain those two, because I did want to include them at first, because they are pretty important in Season 2. But here's the thing. Setting up characters for a sequel is fine in TV shows, but really lame in movies. And those introduction episodes in Season 1 serves only to establish Sokka's character development as someone less sexist and more compassionate, and Sokka is not the protagonist here, so yeet! And I'm sorry, Fomi, you were funny once, but you way overstayed your welcome. Also, at first, I kinda want to cut Zhao, cause he's not the most interesting antagonist and acts more as a foil for Zuko. But then I realized the climax of the movie is the moon killing, and you could not give this to Zuko without completely ruining his character. If I had the choice, I would make Zhao into Ozai instead, which could create a new, very interesting dynamic with Zuko, but that's a thing I could not do with a simple recut of the original series. And here, the key to having a different perspective from the show is actually pretty simple. It's to dememento it and tell the story in chronological order. See, Zuko's backstory and Roku's life and the origin of the 100-Year War is very interesting and all, and it's great as a payoff of a 3-seasons show, but the show came out at the same time as the Wii. And I don't want to explain to my mom that's watching the movie with me why Zuko is a really interesting character, and see, there's the Zuko Alone episode later and makes everything better, I swear! And me who's watching the movie, I want to see the good stuff now and not wait for another 3 years. It's been 84 years already. So here's what it looks like. Disclaimer. I mean, this is a proof of concept for adaptation of a TV series in a movie format. I have no limitation on budget, special effect, location, equipment, timelines, and studio executive meddling, and whatever is needed to actually make a movie. I live in a basement. Please send help. We open up the movie with a volcano explosion. So the volcano explodes, this old dude wakes up and starts fighting it with elemental telekinesis. His friend shows up, we don't know who they are and what bending is, and okay, this dude has glowy eyes and superpower, but it's so awesome, we don't care. Then Sozin lets Roku die just to start a war, and we're like, okay, no clue who they are, but this guy's a jerk. And Roku dies, and boom, transition into Aang's birth. Already we're like suspecting reincarnation, but we're getting kind of confused. However, this was a sweet 2-minute action scene. See, the fortune teller episode from season 1 that we cut actually had Aang fight a volcano, but in the movie we actually give it to Roku. And we show bending in the Avatar state right away without explaining it too much, so it's gonna flow better when the exposition dump will come. 'Cause it's coming. There is a lot of exposition coming. Now, after the action, some downtime. We spend a little time to get to know the Airbenders, and Aang as a happy-go-lucky, pretty talented kid, and then boom. The exposition scene where Aang learns that he's the Avatar, and the audience learn this at the same time as him. And we're like, oh, that's what the previous scene was about, okay, I get it. From then, we follow Gyatso and Aang's relationship, and the war that's coming soon, and the pressure put on Aang to grow up quick. And then the announcement that he's going to be separated from Gyatso, and he's confused and overwhelmed. Aang runs away, and there's a storm, and he locks himself in ice with spirit magic. And there, 10 minutes into the movie, we now start the intro monologue. Water. Earth. Fire. You know the drill. Then the title. See, the show puts Katara as a protagonist for the first few episodes, and kind of frames Aang as the savior first and human second because of the intro monologue. But this movie's framing makes Aang the protagonist, being human first and the Avatar second. And we're with him from the start. Not until the Storm episode, which is like episode 12 or something, but from the start. And when the intro monologue hits after those 10 minutes, it's a relief. For the fans, it's back into familiar territory after an exposition and emotion-heavy scene. And for extra exposition, I actually picked the monologue from episode 1, which is slightly different than the one used in almost every episode. The one that goes, "My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days." It's kind of to get that unexpected yet familiar vibe you want from a movie. And for the non-fans, the monologue is the 100 years time skip and tells you everything you need to know about the world during that time. After the title card, before we get to the present, we actually open with Zuko's backstory. This establishes what the world has become in this time gap, and since we don't know who Zuko is at all at this point, the first thing we learn about him is his trauma. It does change the message from the original series of getting to know the antagonist over time and things are more than what they seem, since here we kind of sympathize with him from the start. But here's the thing, fans already sympathize with him anyway, so we should just get to it already for the new audience. Also, since the backstory is actually Iroh narrating it to Zuko's crew, it brings us to the present, and as it does so, it makes for a great face reveal at the end of the story when we see the scar for the first time after building it up. Like, the way it's done in the show, you'd think it's the first time seeing his scar. It's like a full-on reveal. And here, it's symbolizing right away that the world is scarred as well after jumping 100 years in the future. And now we all understand right away why he'll be obsessed with the Avatar throughout the movie. Now, some breathing time. We finally spend some time with Sokka and Katara, some banter between the two, some exposition of waterbending is not magic, and then they find a weird iceberg while fishing. I'm Aang. You just sneezed and flew 10 feet in the air. I'm an airbender. Yeah, and here's Katara, my flying sister. Do you have any idea what happened to the Avatar? No, I didn't know him. And then, since we've already been with Aang at this point, knowing that being the Avatar is going to separate him from Gyatso and carry the whole world on his shoulder, we get why he lies at this point in the story. We spend some quick time with the village with Aang showing off, and we don't have time for fun and games with the war going on. What war? Ooh, what's that? He's kidding, right? Katara follows Aang, they find the Fire Navy boat, and that's where Katara tells him he's been in the iceberg for 100 years. Then they booby the trap, and we see that that's how Zuko found them. Now it is weird that Zuko just happened to be around there at the time, but that's actually how it went in the TV series, but for the iceberg light beacon instead of the ship flare, so like, tough luck. Just make the booby trap more noticeable or whatever if you're scared of cinemanitpics.com. Now, Zuko is preparing to invade the village is preparing for an attack, and you get to see Sokka's courage, standing up alone against an immense Fire Navy ship. We don't show the penguin chase and Aang's banishment from the village 2-minute subplot, so Aang's already there, and Aang reveals his secret to the village. You're the Avatar? No way. You're just a child. Well, you're just a teenager. Then, Aang sacrifices himself and gets captured to save the village. Katara and Sokka want to go save Aang now that they know he's the world's last hope, prepare for a long journey, and get Appa to fly for the first time. I skipped the secret Yip Yip Cold Word subplot because it's established that Appa can understand humans and we don't need that level of exposition. Back on the Fire Navy ship, Aang fights Zuko in flashy bang bang whoosh fight scene and flees just as Appa arrives. We actually skipped the fight on the ship with Sokka and Katara, and Aang turning into the Avatar state to save time and to correct a plot hole from the TV series that I'll explain later. Our heroes escape, and they discuss that even though Aang is overwhelmed by the Avatar duties, going to the North Pole to learn waterbending is at least the start of a plan. However, Aang will need to make a detour to the Air Temple, his home that he hasn't seen in 100 years. We're home, buddy. We're home. But Aang, no one could have survived in here for 100 years. It's not impossible. I survived in the iceberg for that long. Good point. They find the Avatar statues, and we get to see a statue of Roku, that dude from the opening scene of the movie. Aang establishes, that's Avatar Roku, the Avatar before me. There's no writing. How do you know his name? I'm not sure. I just know it somehow. Now, this scene is the exposition of the Avatar reincarnation cycle, in case you didn't get it previously, and that in this universe, there's some mystical knowledge aspects that might not always make perfect rational sense. See, it's fine. The Avatar spiritual mumbo-jumbo did it. Don't think too much about it. Momo shows up, and they chase him and find Gyatso's corpse. And that's where Aang turns into the Avatar state for the first time. So why is this the first time and not on the boat? Well, first, it spreads out the exposition a little bit. Second, it enhances the pain that Aang is living right now by being the first time he triggers it in 100 years. And third, this is actually established in the show as the moment where it's resonating with all the temples around the globe, and this being how his return is publicly announced to the world. Send word to the Fire Lord immediately. The Avatar has returned. Well, if that's the case in the series, why doesn't this moment happen on the boat then, Brian? Katara eventually calms Aang down by explaining the pain she felt when her mom was killed in the war, and they bond over that pain. And it's another important moment. Grief. Now, a little breather, we explore the aftermath of Aang's return being announced to the world with Zuko. He'll get ambushed by a big Fire Navy ship telling him to surrender any information he has to Admiral Zhao, and Zuko is losing hope to capture Aang before Zhao. See, in order to save some time here, we're going to skip everything from Zhao's point of view, and we'll only reveal Zhao through Zuko's eyes, to make Zuko the audience's only point of contact with the Fire Nation. We'll establish Zhao's power and resource by Zuko's lines and visually with the bigger ship, but only to build him up. There's no need to explain Zhao's promotion or where the Yuyan archers come from, and we actually never make Zuko meet Zhao, face to face at least, until the very end. For now, he's only built up as this huge power behind the scene, so Zhao is taking on here what Ozai's role was in the show, because Ozai was the one hidden for 2 full seasons. Now, plot-wise, here we do need a reason to separate Aang from the crew. The show used sickness, so I'm kinda stuck with that with my re-edit. Shyamalan's movie used something, more on that later. If I had total power here, I'd use some Kyoshi warrior subplot, where like a village is attacked and the Kyoshi warriors are on their way but were delayed. Aang won't want to leave the village, cause responsibility, so Sokka and Katara go with Appa to fetch the Kyoshi warriors, and Aang is going to get captured there. Point is, Aang gets captured by Zhao's forces, and the rest of the crew is busy being sick or doing something else. And when Aang is in his cell, this is where we reveal Zhao. And he's a dick. How does it feel to be the only airbender left? Don't worry, we'll keep you alive. But just barely. Now this is going to be my biggest chronology change. This is Aang's low point. He needs help, and this is like the scene when Korra gets captured by Tarlok. Aang meditates, reaches out to Roku, and Aang gets to speak to Roku for the first time. And Roku dishes out the stakes, Sozin's Comet. You must defeat the Fire Lord before the comet arrives. I know you can do it, Aang, for you have done it before. Also, just quick note here that even though Sozon's Comet is the overarching plot of the series, it basically serves no purpose whatsoever here and could technically be completely cut. So feel free to do so if you think 2 hours is too long of a runtime. Okay, let's take a quick break here, because I need to address something I've been avoiding. Here is nothing. For real, I won't talk about the problems here. There's already over 9,000 videos talking about it on the internet. Now that I faced a similar challenge, there's actually a few things that they did and I can understand a little more. First, putting the Aang and Roku discussion about the comet at the low point when Zhao captures Aang is actually what Shyamalan did in his movie. And as for the reason why the gang separates, the TV series plot of everyone just being sick and the rain forbidding Appa from flying is super contrived. So Shyamalan just went for a cleaner, simpler plot that actually gives Aang more agency. He's feeling the stress and wanting spiritual guidance, which he must do by himself, which is technically a good idea. Second, there's a lot of exposition to go through, and sometimes just need to yeet it to make room for just, real scenes. Avatar's overarching story is about giving hope back to the people, and there's an episode dedicated just for that in the TV series. And it's the Haru episode on the metal prison, and that's the one Shyamalan included. And the lack of scenes where Aang is just helping people and doing good is definitely a problem in my re-edit. I can't believe I defended the Shyamalan movie. I'm gonna get banned from the internet. So my edit from there might feel a little strange, but I actually like that reframing. So at the end of Aang's discussion with Roku, he says, "A great danger awaits you at the temple. I can help you face the threat." In the TV series, he's talking about the fire temples at the solstice, and that he'll take over Aang's body and kick some ass. But in my edit, it's implied that he's talking about Aang's prison cell. However, from there, we actually don't explain what Roku meant, and we cut to Zhao's speech and scenes of the Blue Spirit infiltrating the fortress. I kind of like the red herring that the Blue Spirit might actually be sent by Roku in mysterious Avatar spiritual mumbo-jumbo ways, which builds up the reveal of who he really is for, my mom, who's the only person in the universe who doesn't know it yet. So we get the awesome escape action scene, and oh my god, this scene is so awesome. And the Blue Spirit's mask falls, and it's Zuko. And we get the scene where Aang talks about Kuzan and asks Zuko, if we knew each other back then, do you think we could have been friends too? And Zuko attacks Aang, and how was your trip? Did you make any new friends? No, I don't think I did. And it's heartbreaking, and why they cut that in Shyamalan's movie is beyond me. After that, our crew arrives at the North Pole, and we cannot do the cop-out line of, my brother and the princess became friends right away, because there's no such line in the show, so we're forced to show, don't tell, which is great. Now, I did want to get rid of the girl power subplot where they don't teach women to fight, but we kinda need to keep the fight between Katara and Pakku for 3 reasons. First, it's awesome. Second, it's awesome. It builds up Katara's skills before she fights Zuko later. And third, it's awesome. The book is called Water. You need to keep the best water-bending fight scene in the whole series. I would have preferred to make it like a test of strength instead of girl power plot. So for my edit, I did strip the plot to a bare minimum to get to the fight scene, so it does feel kinda rushed. Now, on the other side, I kept all the scenes with Sokka and Yue. Because the movie ends with Yue's sacrifice later, Sokka's relationship with her is the emotional core of the climax. I did cut Yue's boyfriend completely though, so she'll be engaged to a rando dude we never see, I don't care. Cut to Zuko's ship. Iroh is singing at music night, but Zhao boards the ship, and Zhao and Zuko meet for the first time. Zhao is staking Zuko's crew, sees and recognizes the Blue Spirit's sword. The Blue Spirit is a criminal and an enemy of the Fire Nation. But I have a feeling justice will catch up with him soon. Cut to later, Zuko is alone on the ship, and his ship explodes. Iroh joins Zhao, but wounded Zuko is hiding as a guard, and we reveal the scope of the Fire Nation's fleet. The last 2 episodes are mostly untouched, except for just quicker edits here and there. Did you know that there's 3 full minutes of footage of Zuko infiltrating the Water Tribe? Yeah, that's cut. But we need to talk about Ko. Now, Ko, the face stealer, serves no purpose whatsoever, and we can just cut it completely. Because this whole scene is the best narc dogging scene in the whole series, and I cannot bring myself to cut it. And that's why I am not a movie director. So I kept the Ko scene, which brings the total runtime to just under 2 hours, which is too long, but the scene is just too good. And just like how they can bring it so much emotion out of not emoting is pure genius. Just go watch it again. Like, I cannot do it justice here. And there's also one tiny thing. The reveal that Yue is imbued by the moon spirit is actually done better in the Shyamalan movie. Because in the TV show, it comes out of nowhere right as we need it to happen. And in the movie, it was done much earlier, actually during a date between Sokka and Yue, where he asks kind of sarcastically about her white hair, which leads her to tell her backstory. And I kind of wish that the TV show did it in the same way. Oh god, I can't believe I just said that. And yeah, you know the drill there. Black Snow arrives, the tribe prepares for wars. Incredible action scene where Aang fights some ships, but is quickly overwhelmed. Meditates to get help from the spirit in the Spirit Oasis. Zuko arrives, another amazing fight with Katara, but Zuko eventually wins as the sun rises, and captures Aang and flees in the blizzard. Aang in the spirit world meets Roku, then Ko, and learns that the moon spirit is actually in danger, and learns its identity as the koi fish, as Zhao reveals that he knows it as well. This is it. The crew finds Aang, saves Zuko from hypothermic death, which is such an important character moment really, and gets to the oasis as Zhao captures and then kills the koi fish of the moon spirit. Everything turns red, then dark. Aang turns into Koizilla, fights back the whole Fire Nation, and Zhao and Zuko finally have their duel. Yue sacrifices herself, Sokka cries, and Yue's father actually makes a really sweet speech about destiny. And if you really want to end like the first season did, then you reveal Azula and roll credits. So that's pretty much it. If you want to tear my video a new one, like, please do so. I have a total of 0 hours of cinema study under my belt, and I would love to learn more, so please shoot me your criticism. Peace.